Boa tarde, pessoal. Hoje, 6 de março de 2026, agora pelo horário de Brasília, são 1 hora e 45 minutos. Estamos iniciando então mais uma transmissão aqui no canal Meu PTV. Hoje trazendo para vocês, então aí a saída do módulo da nave então HTV-X1 da JAXA, diretamente então da Estação Espacial Internacional, no módulo Harmony. Então, aí estamos com imagens ao vivo da Estação Espacial Internacional.
HTV-X1 cargo craft
Deixa eu só
poised for its
tirar isso
departure
aqui.
from the International Space Station less than 15 minutes from now to
Então,
complete its
aí
4.5-month
o
mission
horário
at
da
the
saída
outpost,
está
to
previsto
which it
para
delivered
acontecer por
more than
volta
4
das
tons
2
of
da tarde,
supplies and scientific
12 horas.
experiments for the
Tá?
residents of the orbital laboratory. Good
Estamos
day from
então
the
aí
International
acompanhando
Space Station
diretamente
Flight
da
Control
Estação
Room at Mission
Espacial
Control here at the
Internacional
Johnson Space Center in Houston.
no módulo
The
Harmony,
HTV-X1 is grappled to
do
the
lado americano.
Canadarm2 robotic arm in its release position, having been
Então aí
maneuvered to
temos
that
aí o braço
position about
robótico
4 hours
posicionado,
ago,
né?
following its
Para então a
detachment
liberação aí
yesterday from
do
the Earth-facing port
HTV
of the Harmony
X1.
module.
Estamos aí com imagens do HTV X1,
The detachment of
direto do braço
HTV-X1
robótico,
represented the
que já foi
completion
retirado
of,
então
as
lá do
we said,
módulo
about a
Harmony.
4.5-month mission at the International Space
Lembrando que no dia
Station.
12
Yesterday,
teremos aí
the
também a
vehicle
saída do
was
módulo da
maneuvered
nave
in front
Cygnus,
of the Harmony
da nave
module
de carga
for a
Cygnus,
sensor data
da Northern Group.
demonstration collection exercise to support the development of the HTV-X3 docking demonstration. The HTV-X1 was maneuvered to
Esqueça
9
de deixar o
different
seu
unique
like, né, a
positions
sua
in front
inscrição
of
aqui no
the
canal
Harmony
e
forward
de
port for
compartilhar a
data
nossa
gathering
transmissão.
yesterday.
Just a friendly reminder that we are in the no exercise block.
Copies, no exercise.
Here in Mission Control, spacecraft communicator Amy Dill talking to Jessica Meir on board the International Space Station.
Vamos
On bottom
acompanhar
of your
então aí
screen
a
is
nossa
the lead
transmissão
flight
aí ao
director for
vivo,
the HTV-X1 mission, Fiona
diretamente da Estação
Andkowiak.
Espacial
To her right is
Internacional.
Amy Dill, and to Dill's right is JAXA astronaut Aki Hoshide, a veteran of HTV operations with the legacy HTV cargo vehicle when he flew aboard the International Space Station several years ago. Once HTV-X1 is released, that release time is expected right at the top of the hour at 11 a.m. Central Time, high noon Eastern Time. It will then begin to depart the vicinity of the International Space Station. Some 7 minutes after its release, there will be an engine firing called a single burn departure maneuver, or SDM-1 burn, of 36.5 seconds in duration to increase its departure velocity by 0.45 meters per second, allowing it to depart the neighborhood of the International Space Station. Some 40 minutes after release from the robotic arm, the Canadarm2, we will complete the integrated operations between Mission Control here in Houston and the JAXA Flight Control Room in Tsukuba, Japan. The HTV-X1 will depart in a trajectory that will carry it above the International Space Station and then behind the station. The HTV-X1 will raise its orbit to some 311 miles, some 50 miles higher than the International Space Station, for the start of about 99 days of experiment operations as a scientific platform, if you will, for the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. There will be the release of a small satellite, an SSOD as it's called, a small satellite orbital deployer demonstration. There will be another experiment demonstration about a month from now called Mount Fuji. The Mount Fuji experiment is designed to characterize satellite laser ranging technology, and then very late in its free-flying time on orbit before it is deorbited some 3.5 months from now, HTV-X1 will support the deployment of a CubeSat and a deployable antenna demonstration called Delight. So there's a lot of miles yet to go for the HTV-X1 following its release from the International Space Station. The release today is being commanded by the robotics flight controller here in Mission Control. It's called a ground control
10 minutos
release.
aí para a liberação.
Chris Williams, the NASA astronaut who has been on board since last November, he is in the cupola of the International Space Station. He'll be monitoring the departure of HTV-X1 until it is beyond the point of the approach ellipsoid, at which time integrated operations will come to an end.
And Houston Station on 2, HTV-X lights are visible.
Copy.
The journey of HTV-X1 began back on October 25th with its launch from the Tanegashima Space Center in southern Japan on a Japanese H3 rocket. JAXA delivered the HTV-X1 into a perfect orbit with its release from the second stage of the H3 rocket occurring some 15 minutes after liftoff from that island-based launch site in southern Japan. After a 4-day journey to the International Space Station, HTV-X1 arrived in the vicinity of the International Outpost, and the reverse of what we're about to see here today occurred when the crew on board the station, at that time led by Kimiya Yui of JAXA, reached out with the Canadian-built robotic arm and grappled HTV-X1, maneuvered it into position for its
Estamos aí vendo imagens da missão, né, que aconteceu lá em outubro de 2025. Que foi aí pela JAXA, entregando então aí o HTV-X1, né, a Estação Espacial Internacional. Aconteceu em outubro do ano passado. 8 minutos então aí para a liberação. Estamos aguardando aí a liberação, então aí 8 minutos. Nós estamos vendo então ainda imagens do início dessa missão. 8 minutos então aí para o momento da liberação. Estamos ao vivo então novamente.
About 40 minutes ago, Flight Director Fiona Antkowiak went around the room here in Mission Control to get a go, no-go for the release of HTV-X1. All the positions pulled go here in Mission Control. And so the Japanese cargo vehicle, the new generation of cargo carrying vehicles for the International Space Station and for future exploration activities on behalf of JAXA, is ready to begin its independent journey before it is ultimately deorbited to burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. The HTV-X1
lembrando que no dia 12 também vamos ter aí a liberação da Cygnus.
The legacy HTV of years ago had its solar cells wrapped around the fuselage of the spacecraft. This vehicle has deployable solar array paddles, as they are called, by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, and there's a good view as we have entered an orbital sunrise over the Pacific Ocean of the HTV-X1 vehicle. Coming up on about the 6.5-minute mark until the command is issued by the robotics officer to open up the snares on the end effector of the Canadian-built robotic arm. So we'll be standing by to listen for that. And then the arm will back away from HTV-X1. Again, some 7.5 minutes after its release, the engine on the HTV-X1 will fire in what is the SDM-1 burn, as it's called, the single burn departure maneuver that will increase the opening rate between HTV-X1 and the International Space Station to 0.45 meters per second, allowing it to back away from the International Outpost.
Somos o único canal aqui do Brasil a transmitir então esta liberação do HTV-X1 diretamente então da Estação Espacial Internacional. Lembrando que a gente sempre tenta transmitir tudo que acontece então, ao redor do mundo na Estação Espacial Internacional. Siga o nosso canal, para acompanhar então tudo que
Today's
acontece aí por
departure
aí.
of HTV-X1 represents the
Faltando
first of
então aí
two
menos de 5
unpiloted
minutos.
cargo craft
Lembrando que a
departures
liberação
from
aí
the
está
station.
programada para
Next
acontecer
Thursday,
às
March
2
12th,
da tarde,
the Northrop Grumman
aqui no horário de
Cygnus
Brasília,
NG
11 da manhã, no
23
horário
spacecraft, the
do
ISS
leste
Willie
nos
McCool,
Estados Unidos.
will have a similar departure profile.
Este módulo aí da
Basically, it
JAXA
will be
passou aí
grappled
cerca de
and
quase
detached from
100
its
dias em
berthing port
órbita
on the
na
Earth-facing
Estação
side of
Espacial
the Unity
Internacional, né,
module,
chegando lá em
basically the
outubro
parking place next door to
de
where
2025
HTV-X1 was
pelo
birthed.
veículo H3,
The SS Willie
que foi lançado
McCool
lá
will
na
be released,
Intenacional,
again,
no
ground
Japão.
controlled, released by the robotics officer here in Mission Control,
E neste
and
momento,
will
então, aí estamos
depart
acompanhando então a
for a
sua saída
48-hour free
da
flight before
Estação
it is deorbited
Espacial
on this
Internacional.
Saturday, March 14th. The departure of the Cygnus, the Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo craft, is
Lembrando
scheduled
que
for
este
next
módulo,
Thursday
então,
morning, March 12th,
japonês, né,
with our coverage
entregou aí na
beginning
Estação
at
Espacial cerca de
5:45 a.m. Central Time, 6
mil
a.m.,
toneladas
6:45 a.m. Eastern
de
Time,
2.000
for a
libras, né,
release 15 minutes later.
de suprimento, de bastão de experiência.
And the JAXA
cubo,
flight director at Scuba, the JAXA flight control
e
room
outros
in
suprimentos para
Scuba
a
has
estação.
given Flight Director Fiona Antkowiak here
Para mais
in Mission
informações, você
Control in
pode
Houston
encontrar lá na,
their green
no
light,
site
the
da
go
NASA.
for the release of HTV-X1 just 4 minutes from now.
Two for Chris, ground teams have pulled go for release. Stand by for steps 3 and 4.
Então aí está tudo pronto para a liberação.
RPL, standing by for steps 3 and 4.
Estamos aguardando então aí os passos finais para a liberação. Mas está tudo em ordem. 4 minutos. Menos de 4 minutos, então aí para a liberação.
The window is now open for the release of HTV-X1. The preferred time, however, is right at the top of the hour at 11 a.m. Central Time,
3
noon
minutos.
Eastern Time. Countdown clocks here in Mission Control, ticking backward toward the release of HTV-X1 to complete its 4.5-month mission at the International Space Station. As mentioned earlier, once HTV-X1 is flying free, it will spend about 99 days supporting scientific experiment work on behalf of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency before it is commanded to deorbit, where it will harmlessly burn up over the Pacific Ocean.
Menos de 2 minutos.
The robotics officer reporting back to Flight Director Fiona Antkowiak that we are on track for an on-time opening of the snares on the end effector of the Canadarm2, which is currently grappled to HTV-X1. We are inside 2 minutes now from expected release.
Minuto.
The International Space Station currently flying 260 miles over the Pacific Ocean, moving from northwest to southeast. Its orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator, coming up on 1 minute till release. The departure of HTV-X1 being monitored by NASA astronaut Chris Williams in the cupola. This view now from the end effector on Canadarm2. Once the snares are open and the robotics officer issues the command for the arm to back away, will confirm the release time, and you'll see the arm slowly moving away from HTV-X1. That's coming up in about 30 seconds.
We are proceeding with release. Perform steps 3 and 4 in 1.602.
Mission copies 3 and 4 in 1.602.
And the robotics officer has now issued the release command to the end effector. It will take just a few seconds for those snares to open. And the release has been commanded. Release occurring at 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern Time. HTV-X1 now flying free over the central Pacific Ocean. We'll see the end effector view of Canadarm2 backing away from HTV-X1 momentarily.
Estamos aguardando então aí a confirmação da liberação. 14 horas e 1 minuto. O comando já foi enviado, né? Estamos aguardando então a liberação confirmada, né? Já 14 horas e 2 minutos. Então estamos aí.
HTV-X1 reported to be rock solid as the end effector begins to back away.
Estamos aí então vendo o início então do recuo, então, da liberação definitiva aí do HTV-X1. HTV-X1 então nesse momento deixando a Estação Espacial Internacional. Vamos aí com a imagem do módulo H. A nave HTV-X1.
Backing away from the HTV-X1. Once again, the release occurred right on time at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern Time, as the International Space Station flew 260 miles over the central Pacific Ocean.
Então, portanto, a liberação confirmada. 14 horas
away from
1 minuto.
HTV-X1 executing its single burn departure maneuver.
Houston, Station 10 has exited the lead. Go for back away.
Copy. Proceeding with back away.
Now that the end effector has clearance from the grapple fixture on HTV-X1, the robotics officer here in Mission Control, operating the arm, is sending commands to continue the back-away procedure. And the arm now in motion. You'll be able to see that full grapple fixture momentarily.
Copy, back away in progress.
HTV-X1 arrived at the station and was grappled back on October 29th and berthed to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module for its cargo delivery mission. With that having been completed, the maiden flight of this new generation of Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency cargo craft, which will also be applicable for future exploration activities is now coming to an end, at least as far as the station is concerned. 3 minutes away from HTV-X1 executing its single burn departure maneuver. Flight controllers reporting the HTV-X1 systems are in good shape, no issues. All of its global positioning system sensors are all functioning normally as it calculates its position relative to the International Space Station and the Earth itself. The robotics officer now reports that the Canadarm2 has completed its back-away, if you will, moving a safe distance away from HTV-X1. We're about a minute away from the vehicle executing its departure burn.
And also for pan tilt cameras as needed.
Copy, go for step 4 and go for pan tilt cameras as needed. Retreat, execute is sent.
Houston copies.
And Chris Williams from the cupola confirming that the vehicle has armed its burn capability. This STM-1 burn, if you will, expected to last about 36.5 seconds to increase its opening rate from the station by about 0.45 meters per second.
And Houston, station on 2. We see the VV mode in RP departure, and retreat is commanded.
Houston copies.
We're about 1 minute away from the start of the departure burn. The command to execute the burn has been loaded into the onboard computers on HTV-X1.
Station Houston on 2, departure burn loaded and will execute shortly. Monitor per steps 5 and 6 and 1.602.
Copy all, monitoring for steps 5 and 6.
The visiting vehicle officer reports navigational data for the HTV-X1 is looking very good. The vehicle systems are solid as we're coming up here in just a few seconds for the start of the departure burn. And the burn is underway. The burn, once again, about 36 seconds in duration to accelerate the opening rate between the cargo craft and the International Space Station, enabling HTV-X1 to exit the first of two boundaries in the neighborhood of the station called the Keep-Out Sphere. That will be followed about 20 minutes later by its departure from the approach ellipsoid, which will bring to an end integrated operations between Mission Control here in Houston and the JAXA Flight Control Room in Tsukuba, Japan. And the departure burn now complete. Burn looked good.
Departure burn complete. Verify and monitor per step 7.
Copy, verifying monitoring for step 7.
Hour safe trajectory confirmed.
Station copies.
That call from spacecraft communicator Amy Dill to NASA astronaut Chris Williams and the cupola of the station, confirming that HTV-X1 is on the proper trajectory to move to a position above and behind the International Space Station, well away from the complex, to begin its 3-month scientific mission as a platform supporting several scientific investigations for JAXA. A good view of the canted solar array paddles that provide the power generation for HTV-X1. We are in a brief handover with our tracking and data relay satellite system communications network. We'll be reacquiring a view of HTV-X1 from the space station external cameras here momentarily. It all went by the book this morning, with HTV-X1 departing the International Space Station with its release from the Canadarm2 robotic arm on time at 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 noon Eastern Time, as the station flew 260 miles over the Central Pacific. Here in Mission Control, the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers on console at this hour, led by Flight Director Fiona Antkowiak. At the bottom of your screen, to her right, spacecraft communicator Amy Dill, whose voice you have heard communicating with Chris Williams of NASA aboard the International Space Station. And to her right is JAXA astronaut Aki Hoshide, a veteran of HTV operations during his tenure on previous flights to the International Space Station.
Send Sophie on 2 for next activity.
Hey, Sophie, I've got some words on the hatch seal for you when you're ready to copy.
I am ready to copy.
Okay, we've been tracking about 10 days ago. You and Chris saw some white residue on the airlock IV hatch at about the 5 o'clock location. So we have a procedure for you to perform 1.1.521 for U.S. hatch seal inspection. You're going to start in step 2.17, correction, to vacuum first, and if not successful, the procedure will vector you to try to clean it with potable water and a lint-free absorbent paper. How copy so far?
Good copy. So procedure 1.1.521, and then starting step 2.17 for vacuum first, and then next steps in case it doesn't work.
Excellent copy. So you'll reference the tools list in the procedure. Most are crew deployed, but I'll give you stowage locations for 2 that you might need that for. First is for the AC dry vacuum brush tool. That's located in Node 2, Deck 4, and a 1.0 CTB, serial number 1008, and that's for the NOM Operations AC dry vacuum cleaner. And then the second item is for lint-free absorbent paper. That's going to be deployed in the airlock in the EMU servicing kit, serial number 5005.
Okay, AC dry vacuum, Node 2, Deck 4, CTB 1.01008, and lint-free absorbent paper in the EMU servicing kit 5005.
Good copy. All right, that's all that we think you need. Let us know if you have any questions.
No questions for now, and that's in work.
Thank you much.
You're very welcome.
That conversation between spacecraft communicator Amy Dill and European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adeno of Expedition 74 aboard the station regarding some housekeeping activities in the Quest airlock.
Thank you, Chris and HTV-X. Arigato.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful having HTV-X here. It really brought a lot of joy to us and a lot of joy to the station. We're really happy that we had such a wonderful mission with it. So thank you to everyone on the ground and at JAXA and all over the world that helped make this mission a success. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu.
The vehicle has exited the first of the two boundaries around the International Space Station, that being the keep-out sphere. The next call will be coming up shortly with the exiting of HTV-X1 from the approach ellipsoid. That will terminate integrated operations between Mission Control here in Houston and the JAXA Flight Control Room in Tsukuba, Japan. You heard the words between Amy Dill, the spacecraft communicator, and NASA's Chris Williams, who viewed the departure of HTV-X1 from the cupola of the station, which is currently flying 260 miles over the South Atlantic, having just crossed the southern tip of South America, now moving in a trajectory inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator from southwest to northeast. As mentioned earlier, this is the first of two unpiloted cargo craft departing the station within a week. Next Thursday, the Northrop Grumman NG-23 Cygnus cargo craft, the SS Willie McCool, will duplicate the activities you've just seen with the HTV-X1 being released robotically from the Canadarm2 robotic arm to begin its departure from the station, having completed its cargo delivery activities at the International Outpost. We will provide live coverage of the Cygnus departure from the station next Thursday morning, March 12th. Coverage beginning at 5:45 a.m. Central, 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time for its robotic release 15 minutes later. And again, HTV-X1 is now phasing into an orbit above and behind the International Space Station for the start of its scientific platform support of several scientific investigations for the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, before it is scheduled to complete its mission about 99 days from now. Aboard the International Space Station, meanwhile, as the HTV-X1 departure activities have been ongoing, the rest of the crew aboard the station has been busy with a variety of activities, end-of-the-week housekeeping, as well as packing items no longer needed on the station inside the Northrop Grumman Cygnus cargo craft for its departure next Thursday morning. And external cameras on the station still with a view of HTV-X1 and its canted solar array paddles.
Bem, então é isso. Estou encerrando aqui então a nossa transmissão de hoje. Lembrando então que no dia 12 teremos então aí a liberação das signos lá na Estação Espacial Internacional. Tá, muito obrigado então por assistir e acompanhar a nossa transmissão de hoje. Quer novas informações, acompanhe lá na nossa rede social, no X, para mais informações. Então, o IPTV sempre mostrando então tudo o que acontece ao redor do mundo e na Estação Espacial Internacional. Até a próxima transmissão.